should be my Crimson Trace red dot and the adapter plate that I'm going to put on my FMK 9mm. Empty. Ordered it from Amazon. The Crimson Trace dot was 105. The adapter plate was 20. Yeah, we got the Crimson Trace CTS 1550. This is the little adapter plate, DPP reflex sight mount for Glock. It actually goes in the rear dovetail. You drive the rear side out, and this goes in there and has a couple of set screws. And this is a case gauge. This doesn't have to do with this. This has to do with reloading. After you reload shells, you can place them down in here and make sure that they're going to chamber properly, make sure they fit in there. So I'll show that on another video. I guess first and foremost we need to install this on the gun. I need to cut this box down so I can have something to drive my rear sight out with. I don't want to mar up the table. I have to go get a little hammer and a punch. Alright, Icy's here to help. I'm just going to do this with the slide on. Again, it's empty. Just slide on the firearm. That way I can hold right here. Dang, it came off real easy. I didn't expect it to be that easy. I've had some that are really hard to drive off. Golly. Just got a myriad of screws. Slides in there pretty easy. You don't need any tools, it seems like. I might have to tap it over a little bit. Probably should use a brass hammer. Looks good and centered. Now there's a couple of screws, set screws you put in here. Probably just one in the center. We'll look at the instructions just in case. So I'm going to need to mount my sight to that. Doesn't really say which ones to use. That's the extent of the instructions. So I'm going to open my red dot so I could see how I need to mount it. I'm sure it'll just be 2 screws. Probably there and there if I'm thinking I know what I think I know. Do we ever really know what we think we know? The batteries, the cleaning cloths, mounting screws, the dot itself. I've heard that the battery is exposed on the bottom. It's got a little cover. Probably throw that away, I'm sure. Put it in the box and leave the box forever. So yeah, it's going to be those two on the sides. So I'll just put a set screw in the middle. Looks like these set screws all have Loctite on them already. Yeah, static. Static clean. The reason I picked this sight is because it has these little grooves in the back of it. So if my sight fails, I'll kind of have a sighting system. I can use those grooves to line up with my front sight. I'll have to test it and see what the elevation is going to be like on it. But all the other options for this cheap gun, I'm not going to send the slide in and have it cut. So there's really no other mounting options other than a plate like this. So that's why I wanted to be able to use my sights in case my red dot failed, which happens. We use the Crimson Trace screw. Battery in first. Takes a 2032 battery. And this unit, I'm told, just stays on all the time. It's supposed to be a 20,000 hour battery. So oh yeah, there's the dot in there. Probably never get it to where you can see the dot through there, but it's supposed to auto adjust for brightness. It's a cheap one. Relatively cheap. It was $105. Again, I've got 280 in the gun, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot on a sighting system. Oh, you know what? I'm not sure that these, I may have to use the screws that came with the mounting plate. Yeah, these screws don't fit the tapped holes. So, I'll just have to pick the screws that came with the mounting plate that are about the same length. Not such a fan of that, but that's what I got to do. Looks like those guys there. two little dowel type pins on the bottom of it that the sight goes on to line it up. This is the hardest part. Seems like I'm already having to put a lot of tension on it, but it's because there's Loctite on the screw head, or on the shank of the screw, sorry. Just want to make sure that these screws aren't bottoming out. I want to make sure that whenever I tighten this up, it's actually there's no movement. That little bit of movement was the slide. There's no movement between the sight and the mounting plate. So good there. Put the other screw on. And this one's the same way. Scares me whenever there's that much tension just starting out, but it's not cross-threaded. So. I've seen reviews on this site, some good, some bad. One guy got moisture in his sight. He'd only had it a couple weeks, and he believes he got moisture out in the rain. It was drizzling, not super bad rain, but then it stopped working. I think if I had that, I'm going to actually register my site with Crimson Trace. If I had only had my site a month or so and that happens, I'll contact you. But that's it. It's on. I'll have to go sight it in. The sight adjustments are with these little bitty Allens up and down right here, right and left on the side. Most of the reviews I've seen said they're pretty close to being on already. The bad thing that I'm looking at already is my little notches for my iron sights. I can just barely see my iron sight on the front. So I may need to get a what they call a compensator front sight, which will bring the profile up a little higher, which can get snagged on a draw, this or that. I mean, but I'm probably going to do it because I'd rather have a sight that I can see. That's why I purchased this one with a notch. Now, if you were to install this like on a Glock with the MOS cutout, you would absolutely be able to see the front sight because Glock sights are a little bit taller on the front anyway, but that cutout, this would sit right down into the slide and not have to have this adapter plate which elevates it. But for now, I'm happy with it. I'll let you know if good things or bad things happen to it. Thank y'all.